So Ethereum, is kind of like this app store for decentralized applications. That's, what Vitalik's conception was from the beginning. And I think it's panned out that way. If you look at the fact that you have things on Ethereum as diverse as, lending and borrowing protocols and decentralized exchanges versus NFTs that are, for bored apes or domain names or, it's really as diverse and flexible as I think he kind of envisioned.
Hi, everyone. We're in for a very special treat. We have, in my opinion, the host of one of the best podcasts, best shows talking about cryptocurrencies. She was a former senior editor at Forbes. She has a book coming out. We have the founder of the Unchained podcast, Lara Shin, joining us in the show. Lara, it's such an honor to have you here.
Yeah, I'm pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
The cryptocurrency market is something that's very exciting. If there's one word that will encapsulate this entire space for you, crypto, blockchain, metaverse, NFTs, and everything else in between, what would it be for 2022 and why?
Fun. Because crypto is fun. I think it's, there's just so many things happening all the time. For a storyteller, I barely even have to do anything. I love it.
I've been watching and following your story from someone who's been covering personal finance and then transitioning into the crypto space. I guess what I want to ask is, for all of us that are highly and deeply into crypto, when did it click for you? When did you realize that, hey, this isn't just like a pump or dump. This isn't just the next tulip bubble, but this is something that could be a piece of where the future will be decades from now. What was like the matrix moment? What was like the light bulb moment for you?
Well, it pretty much happened like right when I started covering crypto. In May 2015, I was doing the Forbes FinTech 50 list, which is just like this list where we, pick what we think are the top fintech companies. And I had taken the category of digital currencies, and there was this company called Chain, and I'm not sure if they're still around. I know they were acquired by Stellar, so I'm not sure, what's going on with their technology. But the point is that the COO was this guy named Devin Gundry, and he's a very like animated kind of character, and he just gave me this like amazing description of what Bitcoin is. And, he had like a lot of enthusiasm about it. And he's just, I don't know, like, I just sort of remember his like arms were flailing everywhere. And he was, just like being, just very lively discussing it. And I kind of realized very quickly just from the way he was talking about Bitcoin, like, oh, wow, like this is going to change things, And because I'd been working on the FinTech 50 list, I was very well aware of what some of the different problems and issues were with the banking system. And so once I understood Bitcoin, it was just like, whoa, like this is so much better than what we have. It was clear as day.
But there wasn't like any hesitation that, hey, this might go nowhere in the next 20 years. This might just be something that it's a fad right now. No hesitations like that. It was something that clicked suddenly that this is the future. This is game-changing technology.
Like pretty much right away. I'd heard about Bitcoin before. I'd heard about Bitcoin, I think in maybe like 2011, but the person who described it to me, the way they described it, I actually thought that it was literally that people would like take pen and paper and figure out the math problems, and then they would like win coins. Like I thought it was like a game, like you do math like with a pen and paper, and then at the end, if you get the math problem right, you get coins. That's what I thought it was. Like they didn't do a very good job of explaining it to me. So it kind of, it wasn't until 4 years later when I got the better description. But the point is that at that time, you might remember these were the days of blockchain, not Bitcoin. And so like very, very, very quickly, because Chain was in that business. Chain was an enterprise blockchain company, and they were working with like Visa and NASDAQ and like, these kinds of companies. And so the first major story I did for Forbes magazine was how Wall Street will use enterprise blockchain And it's so funny because that's what everybody was saying was going to happen. They were like, oh, this is going to be the wave of the future. And yeah, it didn't quite pan out that way. So my first big feature was a miss, but I mean, that's what all my sources were saying. So the point is that they were all convinced this was going to change things. And so, yeah, that's what I was writing about pretty much immediately.
You've covered a lot from, at least from the start of where Bitcoin was, then Ethereum, the entire ICO boom. Then now we have all of these L1s trying to beat or at least supplant Ethereum, or L2 scaling solutions trying to help Ethereum as well, or the dApps that are built on top of it. Among all of these storylines, these technologies, what excites you the most? Because it's so fragmented, it's so niche that it's hard to be a master of everything. What tickles your fancy every time you hear about a particular technology or sector in this entire space?
DAOs.
Wow.
Yeah. Having that kind of structure is just something unprecedented in history. So, that kind of decentralized type of organization that can be global, and people can coordinate, across time zones, and they don't have to know each other. And I mean, it's definitely, it's historical to my mind. So, I just feel like, wow, this is like something completely new. And the other thing is, I know a lot of people are interested in, NFTs and DeFi and stuff. But what's interesting to me is like both of those are also shifting toward they're just becoming DAOs too.
Wow.
Like all the major DeFi protocols are becoming DAOs. A lot of these NFT projects are becoming DAOs. And so I just feel like that's the overall trend. And that's kind of maybe what everything is really about. That's just like my current hypothesis.
That's very interesting, because somehow it gives either the community or people who are loyal to a certain project the power to actually steer the direction of where a particular project is actually going. And I can just think about so many iterations on how this could influence either finance or even politics, or even just decisions for a particular project or even church, etc. There's a lot of things that could happen with this.
Well, it's already happening.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think I honestly, I find it fascinating.
I want to ask this, and I want to segment first to the book that you are that's about to come out over the next few weeks. Can you give us at least a glimpse of what it is, for people also to know what can they get from it, what the value that they could receive after reading or learning from you?
So the book explains how the 2017 ICO craze happened. And because Ethereum was the main platform, it ends up being kind of mostly a history of Ethereum, like probably about 3/4 of it. And then at the end, once the whole ICO thing kicks off, then it like kind of branches out into other storylines. But it ends up just talking about the beginning of Ethereum. There were a lot of crazy things that happened at the beginning. Then it goes through the DAO period, which a lot of crazy things happened during the DAO period. And then, there was a lot of stuff happening at the Ethereum Foundation as well that isn't really well known. And the book goes into a lot of that. At the end, like I said, during the ICO period, then it kind of branches out to talk about my Ether wallet, because that was the main way a lot of people were participating. It goes into some things going on at Poloniex, which was the biggest exchange for trading ETH at the time. In the end, I actually think that the book ended up being a coming of age story for Vitalik, because he's kind of the one major through line in the whole book. And I didn't know when I started the book much about him or his life or anything like that. But through reporting it, I realized like, oh, this was actually a period where he just went from being like this teenager who started this thing. He just had this idea to like having a lot of life lessons, I would say, about, human nature and about dealing with people and, just frankly, a lot of difficult lessons that I think were particularly difficult for him as a person, just because of certain quirks of his personality. And so at the end, you do see kind of a new person emerge.
The entire context of the book is, as what you mentioned, streamlined into Ethereum. after all of this study, all of this exposure with the entire Ethereum community, the foundation, Vitalik, and what it's actually doing, what can you derive from Ethereum that you see that this is something that's so amazing for me that I want to share this to also the rest of the world? What if you would encapsulate Ethereum into a general idea? What would it be?
So Ethereum, is kind of like this app store for decentralized applications. That's, what Vitalik's conception was from the beginning. And I think it's panned out that way. If you look at the fact that you have things on Ethereum as diverse as, lending and borrowing protocols and decentralized exchanges versus NFTs that are, for bored apes or domain names or, it's really as diverse and flexible as I think he kind of envisioned. But yeah, one other thing I think which people will sort of get is, as much as, and they'll get this through my book, as much as people like to think of these networks as just being like machines, humans are very much involved, and their kind of conflicts and their power struggles do also affect the development of these systems. And so I think people will see that also comes through in the book.
When you started to analyze Ethereum and then comparing it and being exposed to the other networks that are trying to compete with Ethereum, what's your sense of all of this? You think that Ethereum will still be the end all be all largest largest chain out there, or there will be a point in time that this will all just be multi-chain, everyone coexists and will work together? Or because we're so early, everyone will have its space in the sun, that everyone will be building apps regardless of what platform they're on?
I think it will be multi-chain, but for what that really looks like, it's hard to say. I just say multi-chain just because it's already turning out to be multi-chain. If we look at, I guess probably most people would agree that the only two chains that are really, really established are Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? And they're just very different. And I think that goes to show that you can have chains that just have like kind of different purposes and different uses. And so just for those two that have like actually really established themselves, I would say the reason that they both have established themselves is because they sort of occupy different niches. And so, I wouldn't say that they're directly competitive. So in that sense, like already, we're looking at something that's multi-chain, but as for whether or not it's going to become much, much more multi-chain, or if over the long run, it will kind of be sort of the way the FANG companies are today, or Mang or whatever, where, there's kind of like a few major, huge companies. It could end up being that in the end, there's only like 3 to 5 blockchains where everything happens. I don't know. But I think it would be unlikely at this point that we would just end up with one chain. Even just from a scaling perspective, as we can all see, that might be challenging. So I do feel like it will be some kind of multi-chain world, but in terms of what exactly that looks like, it's still undecided. You're not going to have as many blockchain transactions at all compared to like in the gaming, right? And so for like Ronin or for Immutable, those chains have like pretty specific characteristics for gaming. And it's just going to be different from other types of layer 2s. And so I mean, this could be another reason why it's definitely going to be multi-chain, because there's just going to be probably different blockchains for different purposes, and they have different features, and people will select based on that.